Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're diving straight into the life of an absolute global icon. We're going to explore the full biography of Kylian Mbappé. And wow, what a ride it is. We're tracing his extraordinary path from a kid kicking a ball in the Parisian suburbs to sheer footballing superstardom, and now a sprawling global business empire. But to truly understand Mbappé, we actually have to rewind all the way back to 2008. Picture this. In a quiet classroom on the outskirts of Paris, a 10-year-old Kylian gets an assignment to draw what he wants to be when he grows up. Now, you'd think he'd draw a football pitch, right? Nope. Instead, he carefully traces a thick red border and writes 4 letters right at the top, T-I-M-E. He drew his own face on the cover of Time magazine. To his teacher, it was just, a cute daydream. But for this kid, it wasn't just a wish. It was literally a scheduled arrival. Years later, he penned this brilliant thought in the Players' Tribune. We are the crazy dreamers. And lucky for us, dreaming doesn't cost very much. That right there, that mindset perfectly captures the incredible journey we are about to break down in this explainer. It's a story completely rooted in vision, raw talent, and this unshakable self-belief that just defies all odds. Chapter 1. The Boy from Bondy, Roots in the Parisian Suburbs. Growing up in a cultural melting pot like Bondy, surrounded by African, Asian, Arab, and French cultures, he was actually exposed to 2 radically different footballing worlds. On one hand, you've got the elite Clairefontaine Academy. Think highly polished, coaches focusing intensely on his weaker foot and developing all those fancy skills. But then, on the weekends, he'd go back to playing for his dad's semi-pro team, AS Bondy. And his father, Wilfred, was having absolutely none of that fancy academy nonsense. In Bondy, it was all about surviving the gritty real-life league and winning at all costs. It really kept his feet firmly on the ground. And that fierce competitive nature, that was born super early over a prize that cost a grand total of €2. Yep, just €2 for a plastic school trophy from a local tournament he played in as a kid. But Mbappé and his friends, they treated that little piece of plastic like it was the actual World Cup. I mean, he even bribed a friend with a brand new coloring book just to guarantee she'd give absolutely everything on the pitch. Because in his neighborhood, honor was always at stake. But the real turning point for his mental game came when he was 11. He was playing a match in this massive stadium, and honestly, he was so terrified he barely even ran. Afterwards, his mother, Faiza Lamari, who, by the way, was a former professional handball player herself, she marches right onto the pitch, grabs him by the ears, and delivers this incredibly harsh truth. She tells him missing 60 goals doesn't matter, but playing scared will haunt you all your life. Man, talk about tough love, right? But it was a vital lesson. It ensured he was never, ever afraid on a football pitch again. He also picked up something known as the Bondy rule. It's basically a neighborhood reflex about respect. If you see a group of 15 people and you only know one of them, you don't just wave from a distance. No way. You walk right over and you shake all 15 hands. It taught him to treat everyone equally. And he famously applied this exact rule to legendary manager Jose Mourinho at the FIFA Awards, systematically shaking hands with Mourinho's entire, very surprised entourage. He took his neighborhood values straight into the absolute highest echelons of the sport. Chapter 2. Rise of a Prodigy, a Meteoric Ascent. The sheer velocity of his career trajectory is just unmatched in modern football. Look at this. At 11, he's at a Chelsea trial meeting Didier Drogba. A story, by the way, his friends back home absolutely refused to believe until he physically showed them the photo. At 14, he's personally invited by Zinedine Zidane to train with Real Madrid. By 16, he makes his senior debut for AS Monaco. And by 19, an age when most players are, just praying to make a senior squad, he's lifting the World Cup for France. Just mind-blowing. But despite that insanely rapid rise, our sources highlight that he was still, at heart, just a starstruck kid. When that 14-year-old Mbappé arrived in Madrid, Zidane picked him up in the parking lot in this sleek luxury sports car. And a nervous Mbappé literally froze before getting in and genuinely asked, "Should I take off my shoes?" Zidane just laughed and told him to hop in. Chapter 3. World Cup Immortal, etching his name in history. So how exactly did this grounded, polite kid transform into the ultimate clutch performer on the global stage? Well, looking at his international career, the numbers are just dizzying. By June 2026, Mbappé reached 60 international goals in just 100 appearances. Let that sink in for a second. 60 goals. With that milestone, he overtook Olivier Giroud to become France's all-time record goal scorer, completely cementing his legacy forever. And when you dig into the historical data, it places him in this unbelievable pantheon of greats. Analyzing his 2022 World Cup final performance against Argentina, he statistically outshines legendary clutch finals from Messi, Zidane, and even Pelé. Scoring 3 goals with an expected goals over performance of plus 1.8 shows just how absolutely lethal he was from incredibly difficult, low-probability positions. He completely redefined the tactical role of a forward on the biggest stage imaginable. And hey, the milestones, they just keep coming. During the 2026 World Cup, his brace against Iraq brought his all-time World Cup goal tally to an astounding 16 goals. That matches the historic, seemingly unbeatable record previously set by Germany's Miroslav Klose. Chapter 4. The Modern Hybrid Forward, Redefining the Attacker. Football analysts today constantly point to Mbappé as the ultimate modern hybrid forward. Why? Because he perfectly combines the precise finishing of a central striker, the explosive vertical transition speed of a winger, and the physical presence to actually play with his back to goal. This unique fusion completely shatters defensive structures. Opponents are caught in an absolute nightmare. If you stay compact, he runs into space. If you push up, he ruthlessly exploits the gaps behind you. It's a lose-lose for defenders. Step by step, you can see this absolute mastery in the anatomy of his 2022 World Cup final hat-trick. First, in the 80th minute, he converts a penalty under immense high-pressure duress. Then, literally 97 seconds later, he pulls off a moment of pure technical genius with a mid-air volley. And finally, in the 118th minute, he displays unimaginable psychological fortitude to step up and score a second penalty in extra time. It required distinct mental, physical, and technical mastery at every single escalating step of the way. Chapter 5. Building a Global Empire, CEO at 25. Now, off the pitch, his strategic brilliance is arguably just as impressive as his footwork. Mbappé doesn't just sign every contract shoved in front of him. He employs a highly curated premium strategy of rarity. He partners with top-tier brands like Nike, Hublot, and Dior. But crucially, and this is a big deal, he strictly refuses alcohol, fast food, and betting brands. He is literally willing to leave millions of dollars on the table to protect his image, really mirroring legends like Michael Jordan, who fiercely guarded their brand associations. And he will even fight the establishment to protect that image. Get this, in March 2022, he openly boycotted a French Football Federation marketing event. He flat out refused to have his face associated with brands he didn't personally endorse. This unprecedented standoff actually forced the federation to completely change the rules. It proved Mbappé is not just some walking advertisement. He is a definitive decision-maker who unilaterally shifted the balance of power in French football. Behind all this power is a tightly knit family-run operation with a business network spanning multiple industries. There's KEWJF, his family company managing his trademarks. There's Zebra Valley, his content production house bridging sports and art. He's invested in major tech startups like the €4 billion company Sore, and he actively runs a foundation for disadvantaged youth. He is clearly preparing for a lifetime legacy well beyond his playing years. But perhaps his most shocking business move came when he was just 25 years old. He purchased SM Cannes, becoming the majority shareholder of the French football club. Becoming one of the youngest owners of a professional football club in Europe proves that he is already using the present as a laboratory to learn exactly how to manage the future of the sport. All of this leads us to one final provocative thought to wrap up our explainer today. Is Kylian Mbappé becoming the first footballer to build an empire truly worthy of Michael Jordan? From a 10-year-old drawing his own face on Time magazine, to a World Cup immortal, to a CEO disrupting the entire business of sports, the boy from Bondy didn't just dream of his future, he meticulously engineered it. Thank you so much for joining me on The Explainer today, and remember, keep asking the big questions.